Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is the Apostate Prophet. How is everybody doing? I hope everybody's having a fantastic day. Hello, David. How are you doing?
How are you doing?
How am I doing?
What do you think? I'm talking to the people? What do I care? I'm asking you how you're doing. And I don't really care about that either, but that's just, you were being polite. So I assume I'm supposed to be polite in return. How are you, sir?
How am I doing? What does it matter what I'm doing? I mean, what does it even mean? I mean, well, let's talk about Israel. How is Israel doing? And why is Israel doing anything at all? And why is our government only caring about Israel? Don't we have better concerns?
And is Israel really doing well? Yes, if by doing well you mean slaughtering everyone on the entire planet.
And why do we have to talk about Israel all the time? I mean, I'm so sick of talking about Israel. Why is there nothing else to talk about? Why do we always have to talk about Israel? We always have to talk about the Jews. Anyway.
What? Oh, yeah. Do the Tucker dance. I'm telling you, it's perfect for a beat, man. Do the Tucker.
So anyway, David, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, what's up?
Anyway, so what's up? Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. How are you doing? Good, very, very well. Also from me, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everywhere, wherever. How are you doing? Unless you're in Australia, in which case nobody cares how you're doing. Dawa shik, dawa shik. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. Not today. So I decided to go.
Dude, I need the song.
We can do that. I
I
like making songs, so we can do that. We can do that stuff. So we were having some really, really active and some really busy days. Just went up to Washington, D.C., where we watched Inspiring Philosophy, aka Mike Jones.
Who?
Mike Jones.
Who?
Mike Jones.
Mike Jones. Who?
And
Mike Jones. Jones got love for his fans till the day that he's gone.
That's where we watched Mike Jones make absolutely demolish the Muslim apologist people, the Muslim apologists that were present at Congress. That's right. That's right. For all those who missed it, Mike Jones, Inspiring Philosophy, was invited to have a debate at a Congress building in Washington, D.C. And he was also told by the organizers or the inviters, who are Muslims and who have to invite an opposing position in order to argue that Islam is actually compatible with the United States Constitution. They invited Mike Jones, and Mike Jones then ended up totally destroying them, and the Muslim preachers were very, very boring. However, one fantastic detail about it is that they asked Mike Jones, Inspiring Philosophy, specifically to not advertise the event. They asked him not to advertise the event. But what happened, however, the Muslims themselves did advertise the event. So we had a Muslim audience.
There were lots of Muslims there, man. Lots of hijabis.
The good thing is that all these friends of Mike Jones, of Inspiring Philosophy, also went up there to go and support him and to watch him. So we were all together in Washington, D.C., and just came back last night, late at night, and then very, very tired, but thought we have to go live, man. I actually decided that I have to do this live because you mentioned to me that a certain individual by the name of J.D. Hall went on Tucker Carlson and started talking very, very nice things about Muslims and about the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire. And I just can't have that, man. I can't have some supposed Christian talking about how the Muslim emperors, the Muslim empires, and specifically the Ottoman Empire were so nice and so kind to Christians. So I had a little bit of a listen to what was being said on that show of Tucker Carlson, who by now is a complete traitor, to be fair. And I didn't like it. So here we are reviewing what these guys have said about how Muslims have been to Christians. I didn't see much of it. I saw a very, very brief part of it as I was looking at the video. And I made a very brief post about that just an hour or two ago on Twitter. It is just really, 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 really bad. Just to give everyone a little taste of it, here is what I posted. Islamic authorities rebuilt the Church of the Holy Sepulchre 3 times. This never happened. Once the church was even destroyed by a Muslim ruler himself, only rebuilt through Byzantine efforts. Tucker brings on the most historically illiterate historians. And I posted this clip. As soon as I saw it, I thought, what the hell, man?
As a matter of fact, they took care of our holy sites. They had rebuilt, Islamic authorities rebuilt the Church of the Sepulchre 3 different times over the centuries.
I know the history of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which actually is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which he apparently can't pronounce as a historian. I know the history of it under the Muslim rulers, and it is just completely plain false. I posted about this before. We talked about this before. It's just complete nonsense. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which is actually the Holy Sepulchre, wasn't rebuilt 3 times by Muslims. What's funny is, after watching this clip, I realized that Tucker interrupts him and says, wait, the Muslim Turks, the Muslim Ottomans, they rebuilt the Holy Sepulchre 3 times? He's like, yeah, they did. What? He even narrows it down to the Ottomans themselves rebuilding the Holy Sepulchre 3 times, which is more than it never happened, which is, it absolutely is impossible for that to happen. However, David, I have no idea who this guy is.
J.D. Hall?
I don't know who J.D. Hall is.
I know J.D. Hall. I thought he was gone.
And Jack Daniels. So would you are familiar with this guy? How about you summarize to us who this guy is?
Total scumbag.
That's pretty rude.
He and his group Pulpit and Pen, I mean, they were much smaller, but they're kind of similar to like the Orthobros back in the day, except they were.
Hey, stop talking trash about the Orthobros, man.
Yeah, they sucked like the Orthobros, really bad, just terrible, awful people like the Orthobros. I'm trying to think, are they Calvinists? I mean, they were always going at it with even other Calvinists and stuff. Anyway, they were back in the day. So they had their little group Pulpit and Pen. And they were like they were like cyber stalkers, right? They would, if you mouthed off to them or something like this, they'd start following you around on social media and find you liking some tweet or something like that. And then they'd contact your pastor and said, oh, does your congregation support this? Look, this person in your church liked this tweet, blah, 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 right? So they were like that. They were pretty small and insignificant until you remember Ergen Caner?
Yes.
Okay, so you had Ergen Caner, who was a former Muslim, right? But basically like kind of a, his dad was a Muslim. He ended up living with his mom, but he still considered himself Muslim growing up. And then he was in high school and a friend invited him to church. And then he ended up becoming a Christian in high school after his friend invited him to church. Okay, so he was an ex-Muslim and he had that testimony. But over time, he started embellishing his story more and more until it got to the point where, he was sent over here. He grew up in Turkey or wherever and was sent over here. He grew up he was like in Sweden. He was like born in Sweden or something like that until he was 3 and then moved to the United States. But he taught, eventually his testimony became he grew up in Turkey and was raised as a jihadi and was sent to America as part of a jihad plot. And, and then he converted before he ever, got to carry out what he was sent here for. And he's telling his testimony and he's like, and my friend didn't make fun of my broken English. And it was like, dude, you lived here since you were 3. What kind of broken English did you have in high school? Anyway, so Ergen Caner embellished his testimony a bunch. Muslims initially started calling him out. They noticed some inconsistencies between his later versions of his testimony and earlier versions. They pointed out that when he was supposedly speaking Arabic and so on, that he was just spouting gibberish. He didn't speak other languages and stuff, so he'd start going, and we told him, right? And so you eventually had Muslims, they play clips of that, and they're like, what language is this? Right? They go, it's not Arabic, we know Arabic. So we send it to all our friends who speak every language, and no one can figure out what this is, right? So so he started getting called out for stuff like that. But anyway, then Pulpit and Pen eventually started calling him out. But here's the thing. They didn't just call him out. They started going after his son, who was a teenager, right? And saying, hey, did your dad speak broken English, broken Arabic, broken English at home? Or, hey, does your dad speak Arabic at home like he claims to and stuff? Anyway, they started calling him out, and then they found him like talking about girls and stuff. And then they start calling out Ergen Kaner, going, look at what your son, he's talking about girls and stuff like this. Don't know if it was connected or not, but shortly after that, his son ended his own life after he was being used to hurt the reputation of his dad. Again, don't know if there's a connection. It's just after all that sort of cyber stalking and so on, his son ended his own life and so on. So anyway, that was Pulpit and Pen, but that was their first like claim to fame. That was when people started hearing about them. They exposed Ergen Kaner for embellishing his testimony. Now, here's the thing. When all of a sudden you're trying for years to get attention for your group, your ministry, and so on, all of a sudden you get a ton of attention, you kind of get wired to keep trying to do that again, to keep trying to repeat that process, because that's what got you famous. So anyway, a little after that, they started trying the same thing with Nabil. So they tried the same thing with Nabil, saying that Nabil was embellishing his testimony and making things up. Now, what's the problem? Well, the problem was I was there. I was there for Nabil's entire, like everything that was happening with Nabil, apart from stuff before he met me, like if he's talking about his life as a teenager or something like that, where I wasn't there. As far as everything, like where he's wrestling with Christianity and eventually converts in his dreams and stuff like that. Okay, I was there. I was there for all that stuff. So anyway, their proof that Nabil was embellishing his testimony was this. They compared 2 different times Nabil was sharing his testimony. And one time he was sharing his testimony and he said, he's talking about his second dream, where he dreamed himself into a parable in Luke. And he was telling his story in front of a church, and he says, and then, so, in my dream, I look, and there's this, I'm outside this narrow doorway, and I look inside, and I see David standing inside. So David, he said, I see David standing inside there. And David says, so he starts, same story from then on. But in a different version, he says, and I looked through the narrow door and I saw David sitting inside there. And so they go, oh, look, here he's saying David was sitting in the dream. And in this other one, he says, David was standing. You see, he's making this up. So anyway, that's when I jumped in and I started responding. I was like, okay, how is that embellishing his story? It's not changing the meaning of the story at all. 2, I was there the next day when Nabil called me and told me his dream and asked what I thought of it. And he said I was sitting in there. So I would describe that as just him misspeaking, not him embellishing and changing his story and his testimony. But they wouldn't back down off that. Nope. Nabil is deceiving people. He's trying to trick people and so on, all over that. So anyway, I did not like these guys. Anyway, they kept going with that for a while. And then he disappeared. And then there was stuff about him like DUIs or something like that. I didn't know the story, but then he disappeared for a while. Had problems with his church or something like that, then came back and started that Protestia thing. And then something else happened and there were like embezzlement charges and they were eventually dropped or something. And now, so I thought he was just done because I hadn't heard from him in a long time. And all of a sudden now he's on Tucker Carlson telling us about how
as he's being
everything was so great under the Ottoman Empire and every Christian should dream of being under Muslim rule and control because it's the best. That's what I know about.
I mean, I love the
J.D. Hall.
idea of becoming a subject and becoming, paying jizya and being beaten and having my children kidnapped, then turned into a special elite force of soldiers under the Ottoman Empire. And also, I guess there's the rape stuff and all that. I'm not sure what to think about that, but other than that, and slavery. But the Ottomans and the Muslim rulers were quite nice. They were quite nice to Christians. Very, 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 very nice. This guy just continues going on and spouting nonsense, and I need to go through every single thing this guy has said. Okay, I know that lots of people have said that he has been. That he got in serious trouble. He was fired from his position or forced to renounce his position because he had a Xanax addiction. Then he was got in trouble for domestic violence, for embezzlement, and so on. All of that aside, he might just, other than that, be a completely upstanding, very nice fellow, J.D. Hall. Lying about people and all that. Other than that, he might be a very, very nice and upstanding citizen. However, we do want to what?
No, like, isn't it like seriously weird and creepy? Like, so he calls out Ergen Kaner, right? Which that had to be done. That had to be done by somebody. And because people like me, we didn't know. We heard from Ergen Kaner when he was giving his full blown testimony, and we weren't aware of earlier versions and didn't know that he was embellishing it. So someone had to call that stuff out. So that had to be done. But then, like, to double down, going after Nabil, and then so your ministry develops into attacking ex-Muslim Christians, right? Now, I just think about that, because that's a long time ago. That's, over 10 years ago that this is going on. And here he is all these years later. And hey, guys, the Ottomans were so great. It was so wonderful. And it's like, what is wrong with you, dude? Why is your nose up the butt of Islam on all this stuff? And you're trying to do the work of the people who really, really want to destroy us. Anyway, I don't know. It's pretty creepy. But the point is there's something there where, okay, you've kind of always been like this. You want to go after ex-Muslims to help Muslims, and then Muslims cheer you on, and then you get kind of like wired to keep siding with Islam on things. And here he is on Tucker. And Tucker said, of all the people in the world, I want this guy. Why? Tucker seems to pick people who are going to say what he's looking for someone to say.
It is really, 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 really incredible, man. So I went on to look further into stuff that he posts in the aftermath, and here is Max Nordau say, do the thing where you say that the Turks treated Christians well. I need to read some good satire. Where I lose kind of faith in society a little bit, as this has 47 likes. Then JD's response has 89 likes. I read a little bit of it, and it's just such sloppy nonsense. Some of it might be ignorant, some of it might be just pure lies and propaganda. My remarks on Tucker about the Ottoman military system in the Holy Land in the 400 years prior to British rule were limited to the Ottoman military system in the 400 years prior to British rule. What a weird sentence. It served the purpose of an apples-to-apples comparison compared to Israel's rule over Christians in Palestine, nothing else. Under the millet system, Christian communities in the Holy Land had legal autonomy, ran their own courts, managed their own schools, controlled their own property, and governed internal affairs without Ottoman interference. Every single person who has a little bit of knowledge of the history under the Ottoman Empire knows that this is complete nonsense. Unless you are somebody who is... I don't know if this is wait, I don't know if this is actually AI. I mean, it might just be his own stupid opinion, honestly. Everybody who has a little bit of knowledge of the history of the Ottoman Empire knows that this is complete nonsense. Turks pride themselves with the fact that they treated Christians under their rule like good boys, like good dogs, basically. There was no such rule. There was never, ever a situation where the Christian minorities could just run things on their own without Ottoman interference, as long as they simply paid their taxes and all that. This literally never happened. The Ottomans always had interference in the Christian communities. The Christian communities were always kept in check. They were always constantly summoned. They were always summoned to check if they are abiding by the law. Any attempt by them to spread Christianity, by the way, this is one of the funniest things. He's comparing Christians under the Ottoman Empire to Christians under Israel, and is trying to say that the Muslims treated Christians better than Israel treats Israel. You know what Christians are happily allowed to do and do every day in Israel? Preach Christianity to others, to Jews. You know where they weren't allowed to do this? Where they would face brutal violence, oppression, execution if they did that, under the Ottoman Empire, under every single Muslim ruler. It wasn't perfect and it wasn't equality, but it was in many ways better than Christians have it now. I mean, what kind of idiot believes this kind of nonsense, man? The only people who believe this kind of nonsense, I don't want to sit here today and act like I'm a defender of Israel or anything like that. It is simply objectively wrong and objectively stupid to claim that Christians are doing better, or Christians used to do better under Muslims than they do now under Israeli governance. This is complete nonsense. The only people who spread such a thing are the propagandists who want to fuel the fight against Israel. I mean, if you have your grievances with Israel, have your grievances with Israel, right? Why in the world do you have to go into lies, into propaganda, to then also argue, well, Muslims were treating Christians better. Muslims were actually treating Christians much better than Israel does today. Dude, the Israeli government treats the minorities in a very, very similar way that the average Western nation treats its minorities. And in my opinion, that's a big mistake. Yes, in my opinion, I'll say it again, that's a big mistake. Christians certainly did not have the same rights remotely that they have under Israel, under Muslim rule. Christians were officially known as second-class citizens, as subjects who have to pay jizya, protection money, if they do not want to become fair game and killed. This is just such historic vomit. It's such nonsense. It is so ridiculous, man.
You're a Turk. You ever hear of the Janissaries?
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. The Janissaries. So the Janissaries, in Turkish, they're called the Yeniçeri. These were, I wanted to bring up a summary of those quickly. Let's go to Britannica. However,
yeah,
to summarize very quickly, the Ottomans had Christian minorities in their land. Their understanding from a certain point onward was that the Christians live in relative, peace and freedom, and that is what they are saying from their own perspective. They live in relative peace and freedom under our rule. We need to, in order to strengthen our government and our empire and our sultanate, our castle, we need to establish a system where we literally go and kidnap, or not kidnap, but kidnap is an option, but at first simply take the children of Christians. Every Christian family is supposed to give so many kids to the Ottomans. If they don't give them freely, the Ottomans go in and kidnap their children. They separate the children from their families, Christian children, specifically in the Balkan regions, bring them back to the castle, and then start educating them under Islamic rule, completely separate from their families, as mindless, harshly disciplined, special elite soldiers whose job is to defend the Sultanate, whose job is to defend the castle, whose job it is to defend the Ottoman Emperor, the Sultan. That is what they did. They forced Christians to give their children up for the Ottomans so that they can use them as mindless elite forces. These guys became the Janissaries, who became at some point so strong that they had the ability to dethrone Ottoman emperors. and put their own people in charge. It became a huge trouble. They were very strong, and Europeans were afraid of them. But they became so strong that they also became a threat to the Ottoman Empire itself. But these forces consisted of children kidnapped or taken by force from Christian families. Christian families had to give up their own children for that, for the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire also proudly and happily bought and sold or is just simply enslaved Christian people. But hey, they were so nice to Christians, man. They were so nice to Christians. They were so wonderfully nice to Christians. What were you saying? What did you want to add about that?
Oh, no. I was just pointing out, I mean, imagine you tell... Yeah, eventually, like the Christians had to hand over a certain number of their children every year to be raised as these elite soldiers for the Ottomans. But then your own kids would be sent to fight and subjugate you and keep you in line.
Yeah.
It was your kids.
Your own kids.
This is so great.
And their own kids who would then oppress the Christians.
Yeah. Now, hang on. Just imagine Israel goes over into the West Bank, takes a bunch of Christians, raises them from just completely brutalizes them, turns them into mindless killing machines for years, and then makes them fight in the IDF, and then sends them to attack Christians. Right. I think it'd be fair to complain about that, but you've got that's not what Israel does. That's what the Ottomans did. And now you've got Christians saying, you see, the things were so great under the Ottomans. It was so wonderful, unlike today with Israel.
But it's okay if Ottomans do that because Ottomans were very nice to the Christians. So here you have a little bit of a summary about it from Britannica.
Hey, did you say what the term means? Because the term became janissaries. You said what the Turkish term means, but doesn't it mean white face or white faces or something like that?
No, it doesn't.
Yengi cherry or something like that.
No, Yenicheri just means new fighter or new soldier or something.
Oh yeah, new soldiers. No, it's actually hang on, it's a quote. Hang on. Marat, let's see. So this is from, where is it? Okay, so this is from Gibbon in his history. Let's see. The duty might be easily levied if vigilant officers were stationed in Gallipoli to watch the passage and to select for his use the stoutest and most beautiful of the Christian youth. Murad liked the idea. The advice was followed. So this is a quote from Gibbon. The advice was followed. The edict was proclaimed. Many thousands of the European captives were educated in religion and arms, and the new militia was consecrated and named by a celebrated dervish. Standing in the front of their ranks, he stretched the sleeve of his gown over the head of the foremost soldier, and his blessing was delivered in these words: "Let them be called Yengi Sheri, or new soldiers. May their countenance be ever bright, their hand victorious, their sword keen. May their spear always hang over the heads of their enemies, and wheresoever they go, may they return with a white face." Yengi Sheri became janissaries in the West.
That is very fun.
Oh, yeah. This is pretty creepy. Godfrey Goodwin, historian of the Janissary Corps, painted a romanticized but still inescapably grim picture of the recruitment of these young Christians. So this is a guy who's trying to make it seem like these guys weren't terrible. He says, whatever ambitions families might or might not have, it was an unhappy day when the troops trudged into the village, hungry and thirsty. The priest was ready with his baptismal rolls, and so were the boys with their fathers. In theory, mothers and sisters were left to weep at home. Then each of the recruits had to be examined, both physically and mentally. Once the selection process was completed, the roll was drawn up in duplicate. Now was the time for tears, and some farewells must have been poignant, but the boys tramped the dusty roads side by side with friends, and all had the excitement of starting out on an adventure. They could dream of promotion and fortune, while the peasants returned to their fields, doubtless to weep longer than their sons. So this is like the Ottomans would show up to your town and say, all right, we need this number of your boys to be taken to come fight for us. And he's actually painting it as, well, hey, you know, then they wouldn't have to go work in the fields and stuff. They'd be part of a cool force. But Gibbon said this: such was the origin of these haughty troops, the terror of the nations, and sometimes of the sultans themselves. Their valor has declined, their discipline is relaxed, and their tumultuary array is incapable of contending with the order and weapons of modern tactics. But at the time of their institution, they possessed a decisive superiority in war, since a regular body of infantry in constant exercise and pay was not maintained by any of the princes of Christendom. So the idea here was they were more elite soldiers because they were raised just as their entire job in life was to fight. Whereas other places, you'd call up soldiers for, you know, you'd call up people and say, okay, we have to battle. Okay, so you work this, you're a blacksmith, you work in the fields, but now we have to go fight. So everyone get a weapon. But these guys were a standing army of people whose only job was to fight.
Very, very nice. Let's have a look at a few things here for Britannica at first. So here's Britannica, which is very, very interesting. Devshirme, first off, this is the word that was used for the system of acquiring those people that would be turned into janissaries. Devshirme literally means to harvest or to collect, or something or someone that is harvested or collected, which is already kind of messed up. It was, they referred to it as such because the law was called the Devshirme law, the collection or the harvest law, which refers to harvesting Christian children from Christian villages and families. So the Ottomans reserved the right to harvest Christian children and to take them from their families, to convert them to Islam, raise them as Muslim soldiers for the empire. This is what the Ottoman Empire did. The Devshirme was a system of tribute used by the Ottoman Empire where Christian youths from the Balkan provinces were taken, converted to Islam, and trained for service in the empire. The system was crucial in staffing the elite Janissary Corps, which formed the first modern standing army in Europe. The Janissaries were known for their military prowess and discipline, serving as elite soldiers and police. Initially, they were bound by strict rules, including celibacy. However, by the late 16th century, these restrictions were relaxed and recruitment expanded to include Muslims. The Devshirme system eventually waned as the Janissaries gained political power, influencing sultans and even orchestrating coups. The system's triumph over the Turkish nobility also led to significant shifts in land ownership and military organization within the empire. The Janissaries were ultimately abolished in 1826 after a revolt against Sultan Mahmud II. But yeah, so the Devshirme system means harvesting, and it's literally the harvesting of Christian children from their families.
Hey, you know what's crazy? So this is in Robert Spencer's book, The History of Jihad, From Muhammad to ISIS. He points out that once this starts going on, the Catholics didn't have a lot of sympathy because you had the Great Schism. And so they're like, hey, so anyway, this is relevant. So Robert says, the Christians in the West, if they knew about this at all, were unmoved either by the, what'd you call it, Devshirme?
Yeah, Devshirme.
Yeah, the Devshirme, or by the ongoing plight of the Christians in the East. For all too many, the Great Schism overrode all other considerations and militated against a sense of perspective. Even the great Renaissance scholar and poet Petrarch wrote in the 1360s to Pope Urban V, the Osmanlis, the Ottomans, are merely enemies, but the schismatic Greeks are worse than enemies. So they're actually worse than the Muslims. So you shouldn't feel bad that the Orthodox have to hand over their kids to these guys.
So the Devshirme, Romanized Devshirme, collecting, usually translated as a child levy or blood tax, was the Ottoman practice of forcibly recruiting soldiers and bureaucrats from among the children of their Balkan Christian subjects and raising them in the religion of Islam. Those coming from the Balkans came primarily from noble Balkan families and Raya classes. It is first mentioned in written records in 1438. This is only the beginning of the things that they did to Christians. So Christian families are under the obligation to give up their children if the Ottomans want it, so they can pick your children, harvest your children, take them back, convert them to Islam, and then raise them as loyal soldiers to the Ottoman Sultan.
And then keep you subjugated with your own kids.
It's so funny to me that we're talking about how the Muslims were very, very nice and very kind to Christians, because there is one issue that that we seemingly seem to overlook here, and that is this one here: the Armenian genocide, which inspired so much of the studies and the wording and everything that was used after the Holocaust.
That actually inspired your little mustache guy, man.
Yeah, it even inspired Hitler himself.
Yeah, he was a soldier in World War I, and keep in mind, the Germans didn't think it was possible. You can't carry out a genocide in the modern world. Other nations would see it and expose you and make it stop. And all of a sudden, he saw one happen. You can actually haul away just tons and tons of people and haul them off to their deaths, and no one's going to stop you. And he said, okay, they could do it. It worked for them. So why can't we?
Hitler himself even used it as justification. I wonder if it's, considering that this is a Holocaust encyclopedia, I wonder if they mention it. He even used this to ask the rhetorical question. Does it mention him, Hitler? It doesn't mention him. That's very funny. He used this and said, so he used this to justify his plan to massacre and to eradicate the Polish people, and said, who after all speaks of the Armenian of the annihilation of the Armenians? Hang on, let me bring up this here. So this is a document that is widely considered authentic by now and also heavily supported. My decision to attack Poland was arrived at last spring. Originally, I feared that the political constellation would compel me to strike simultaneously at England, Russia, France, and Poland. Even this risk would have had to be taken. Ever since the autumn of 1938, and because I realized that Japan would not join us unconditionally, and that Mussolini is threatened by that nitwit of a king, and the treasonable scoundrel of a crown prince, I decided to go with Stalin. In the last analysis, there are only 3 great statesmen in the world: Stalin, I, and Mussolini. Mussolini is the weakest, for he has been unable to break the power of either the crown or the church. Stalin and I are the only ones who envisage the future and nothing but the future. Accordingly, I shall in a few weeks stretch out my hand to Stalin at the common German-Russian frontier and undertake the redistribution of the world with him. This is Hitler speaking. Our strength consists in our speed and in our brutality. Genghis Khan led millions of women and children to slaughter. With premeditation and a happy heart, history sees in him solely the founder of a state. It's a matter of indifference to me what a weak Western European civilization will say about me. I have issued the command, and I will have anybody who utters but one word of criticism executed by a firing squad. That our war aim does not consist in reaching certain lines, but in the physical destruction of the enemy. Accordingly, I have placed my death head formations in readiness, for the present only in the east, with orders to send them to death mercilessly and without compassion, men, women, and children of Polish derivation and language. Only thus shall we gain the living space, the Lebensraum, which we need. Who, after all, speaks today of the annihilation of the Armenians? This is something, the Armenian genocide is something that inspired Hitler to commit genocides against the Polish and against the Jewish people. It is very, very incredible that there are some people nowadays who pose as Christians and who want to praise somebody like Hitler, who had no issue eradicating entire Christian populations, inspired by his heroes, the Ottomans, whom some absolute scumbags also nowadays praise, like the J.D. Hall historian, the most historically illiterate historian I've heard in my entire life. People who praise Hitler, who killed Christians. Very, very incredible. Let's have a look at this. Let's have a look at this stuff, David. Is there something else you want to say? You can't stop talking. What?
No, I'm just noticing the...
You're noticing?
I'm noticing the connection here.
Noticing. You see?
These are the guys who are carrying out genocide, and they become the heroes of these other guys. Okay, all right, I got it.
I want to start somewhere here. So the conversation they are having is largely just talking trash about Israel, with all the lackluster, uninspiring conversation that we have heard 50 million times now since October 7th. It is mainly about Israel, but it also goes into, of course, many, many lies, including the defense of Islam and Muslims. Let's have a look. I'm checking the timestamps here. Hang on. This is so funny, man. He always says, why do we have to talk about Israel all the time? And then in every single conversation he has, he talks about Israel. I just clicked accidentally on a different video that he had, and that was also all about Israel. This here, I mean, I can just show you right here. I can just show you right here. As you can see, theologian J.D. Hall and the corrupting lie of Christian Zionism. What is Christian Zionism? What is dispensationalism? What is Jesus Christ's role in dispensationalism? Who killed Jesus? The Schofield Bible, how Zionism took hold in the West. How does the secular state of Israel fit into this theology? Israel's persecution of Christians. What is the Muslim view of Jesus? I thought this would be very, very interesting. Israel's propaganda campaign on Christians, Israel's evil AI targeting programs. Is modern Judaism the Jewish religion of the Old Testament? What are Mike Huckabee's motives? Are Christians waking up? Can Christians support war in Iran? I want to check quickly how the audio here is. It sounds pretty good. All right, let's have a look right here and start somewhere here. Lots of people are going to be offended in a second, so I do not apologize.
In 1948, with the foundation of the formation of the State of Israel.
Well, the church there is still having their property confiscated to this day for settlement. You know, with the Orthodox Church, Israel closed their bank or froze their bank account because they didn't pay their tax. It was a tax that they just suddenly threw on them. All this time, they've not had to pay that tax. Israel throws it on them. They couldn't afford it because it was years' worth. And they confiscated their bank account and threatened to take their property. The Ottomans.
I resist the urge to comment on this because I know the subject very, very well. Because after becoming a Christian, it disturbed me that there are reports of Israel confiscating property or putting the account of the Orthodox Patriarchate of Jerusalem on lien due to unpaid taxes. So I was wondering, wait, unpaid taxes for what? So I actually directly went and spoke to people in the city of Jerusalem, in the management of the city of Jerusalem. I directly spoke to them and asked all questions that are on my mind. And I asked all about it. I said, wait, is there discrimination going on? What is this tax that you demand from the Orthodox Church? And so they gave me all the information that I need, which is that the Orthodox Church Patriarchate leaders themselves actually never complain to us about any of this. We usually get the complaints about how we are supposedly confiscating stuff belonging to the Orthodox Church from the media, or from other Christians, or from supposedly people of the Orthodox Church talking to the media. For some reason, the representatives of the church themselves never complain to us because there's nothing to complain about. We don't tax church property. We don't tax churches. We tax any property that any religious organization owns, which they use for non-religious purposes.
Non-religious. You are correct, sir. I looked it up right here. The Jerusalem municipality froze the bank accounts of the Greek Orthodox Patriarchate of Jerusalem over a long-standing dispute regarding unpaid property taxes on commercial and non-religious assets. The core details of the situation, the tax dispute. Historically, churches in the Holy Land have been exempt from property taxes. However, the Jerusalem municipality updated its policies to collect taxes on properties not strictly used for worship, such as guest houses, coffee shops, and offices. So if it's not a place of worship, it's a coffee house or something like that, then okay, they said, apparently in the past, if it was like owned by a church, then they just weren't going to tax it. And then they updated eventually and said, okay, If it's a coffee shop or a hotel or something like that that's owned by the church, you have to pay taxes on that. Unpaid dues. City officials enacted the administrative freeze on the accounts after the Patriarchate ignored years of formal notices and letters demanding payment for these taxable assets. The freeze temporarily crippled the church's finances, preventing it from paying clergy, teachers, and staff across its schools, monasteries, and charities. So they said, okay, we're freezing your bank account until you start paying your taxes on these properties.
Everything you just said, add to that the following information. Some people might be thinking, well,
oh, hang on. Following pressure from the Times of Israel and international entities, the freeze was lifted, though the underlying property tax dispute remains largely unresolved. So they still.
Now, some people might say, well, the church, they just have, like, what, do they have a church building and then one or two other buildings? I would encourage everyone to ask the following question. How much property in Jerusalem is owned by the Greek Orthodox Church? I did it for you because I asked the very same question when I was talking to the Jerusalem municipality. And the question you can also get here from AI. How much approximately of Jerusalem property is owned by the Orthodox Church? The Greek Orthodox Patriarchate is estimated to be the second largest landowner in Jerusalem, holding approximately 20% of the land in the city. Second only to the Israeli government. I talked to an Orthodox priest. He said to me, well, Ridvan, honestly, what in the world do they need all this property for? I said, well, that's exactly my question. That is exactly my question. Including, by the way, the property owned by the Greek Orthodox Church includes the Knesset, the Israeli parliament. The King David Hotel, one of the most famous
Israel
hotels
Museum
in Jerusalem, where I was in, and I was fascinated by the look of it. And we did an interview in there. I thought, damn, man, this is wow. I had no idea that the whole thing is owned by the Greek Orthodox Patriarchate. Why? Why do they hold why do they need all of this? And for that, they don't want to pay taxes.
Yeah,
the Israel Museum.
So the King David Hotel, the Jerusalem Great Synagogue, these are all leased, right? So they're paying.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, let's use your property. We're going to use it for this synagogue, for this Israel Museum, and we're paying you to lease this, but you're not allowed to tax them. They're making money off it. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. Ash makes a good point and says, if the landowner of 20% of the land doesn't pay their taxes, how is anything supposed to run? Exactly. You have right now attempts by Jewish organizations to buy property left and right from the Greek Orthodox Patriarchate, which is why you have people complaining that they are trying to take land away from Christians. That when you see online, you will see claims of and these radical Jews, they're trying to take property from Christians. They're trying to take the property off the Christians. They're trying to through discrete means buy property. This is what is being talked about. The Orthodox Patriarchate owns a quarter of the entire city, and there are Jewish organizations saying, "Hey, we need to buy some stuff off of these guys."
Yeah, and here's my issue, right? Okay. So someone may be watching this and going, well, you just should never tax any property owned by the church or something like that. Okay, you could have that position. I think that's kind of weird. But anyway, no, you can't tax this coffee house owned by the the Orthodox Church. You can't tax a coffee house. Suppose someone had that position. It's at least relevant to point out what this issue actually is if you're going to condemn people, because the way it sounds when people complain about it is Israel just went and said, hey, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and all these other churches, these guys all have to pay taxes and we're freezing their bank accounts until they pay us for all their churches. That's never what the issue is. That's not what the issue is.
The vast majority of the land owned by the Greek Orthodox Church in Jerusalem is used for non-religious, commercial, and residential purposes rather than purely religious ones. People never, ever explain this context. They never explain this context, but they want to sell you the idea that the Greek Orthodox Church shouldn't be paying any taxes on the property they own because it's a religious organization. Yeah, but the problem is that the vast majority of the property that they own is not used for religious purposes. It is used for commercial purposes, for different purposes, nothing to do with religion.
Yeah, especially if they're renting it to someone else to use as a synagogue, right? So it is being used for religious purposes, but not for you. You're using it as a property that you lease out, and then so you make money off your property, but you shouldn't be taxed because it's owned by the church.
On top of that, you know what happens then? The Jerusalem municipality says, "Look, guys, we can't be doing this stuff. The city needs taxes. Everybody else pays taxes. Jewish organizations pay taxes all the time. Muslims pay taxes. You should be paying taxes too. If you can't afford to pay taxes on all the property you own, sell the property to somebody else." And they say no. They don't want to sell the property. They want to hold on to it. Because if we sell the property, then the Orthodox Church loses property in the city, and more control goes to somebody else. And that is an affront by the government against Christians. Now, Christians around the world, please be angry and upset to help us. I see this stuff, and I just, how in the world am I supposed to defend the Christian position here, or the Christians in this dispute here? How in the world am I supposed to do that? Would that be just? Is there any justice to that at all? I would have to lie and apply double standards to somehow argue that the Christian organization here in this case is the one that is being persecuted. There is no persecution happening. There is actually an attempt by the Israeli government to hold the Christians to the same standard that all the others are being held to. But you have ill-willed people who want to use this kind of stuff for political purposes and then tell us everywhere that it is Israel unjustly oppressing a Christian organization because the Christian organization owns half the city and doesn't want to give up their property. Anyway, back to the topic.
Hang on. I was just looking up because I searched, did Christians have to pay taxes to the Ottomans?
Yes.
Yes, but it broke down the different kinds. Yes, Christians in the Ottoman Empire were required to pay specific taxes. Under the Ottoman system, non-Muslims were classified as dhimmi. In exchange for protection and religious freedom, they paid extra taxes that Muslims did not. The primary taxes paid by Christians included jizya, a mandatory poll tax levied on adult non-Muslim males in exchange for exemption from military service, as only Muslims served in the military. That's why they would convert those
David, you'll be shocked.
Yeah,
you'll be shocked to hear this guy speak in a second about the very same topic that you're reading right now.
Then there's, I don't know how to pronounce these words, harak and usur, agricultural taxes, such as a tithe on produce levied on land they farmed. So you had to give a percentage of your agricultural produce. And then ispençe, something like that, a standard annual poll tax paid by Christian peasants. And then it even lists the devshirme, the blood tax. While not a traditional monetary tax, the Ottomans operated the devshirme system, requiring Christian communities in the Balkans to surrender a quota of young boys. These children were taken from their families, converted to Islam, and trained to serve as the Sultan's elite administrators or soldiers, the janissaries.
So what? Everybody should pay taxes. What's wrong with paying taxes?
Then, in addition to state taxes, Christian communities also had to pay their own religious leaders. Bishops and patriarchs collected tithes from their congregations, and these church leaders in turn often had to pay heavy fees and taxes to Ottoman officials to retain their position. So if you wanted to be a bishop, you had to pay the Ottomans to retain your position. And then in the mid-19th century, you got some tax reform. So this distinct taxation system continued until the mid-19th century. During the Tanzimat reforms of 1856, I guess this is what your buddy J.D. Hall is talking about, the Ottoman Empire officially abolished the jizya tax. It was replaced with a universal military exemption tax, which meant non-Muslims still paid to avoid the draft, but the system of religious taxation was largely modernized. So you still had to pay because you weren't a Muslim joining the military.
Hey, this is funny. Qatar are out of the 2026 World Cup, and here's a picture of Tucker Carlson getting the news.
You did it all for nothing, Tucker. You did it all for nothing.
His team is out of the tournament. We are very sad, very upset for Tucker Carlson.
Let's all have a moment of silence for Tucker's team losing. Tucker broke the silence.
Didn't charge churches tax.
Wait, look.
And they confiscated their bank account and threatened to take their property. The Ottomans didn't charge churches tax.
Oh, man. So, here's the problem. The Ottomans didn't have the same concept of literally establishing something like a church tax. They did, however, charge the Christians brutal taxes in general for their existence. They didn't really need to charge any church taxes. Christians already had to pay hefty taxes if they didn't want to die. I'm glad that under those circumstances, they also didn't have to pay a special church tax.
You know what we need? We need a special liar tax, and J.D. Hall and Tucker are going to be bankrupt, like hijab.
These guys want to speak to Christians and tell them that they got it all wrong. This is all it's all misinformation and manipulation and lies and propaganda. And then he comes here and so boldly lies to protect the Muslims. What a scumbag, man!
Absolutely,
I didn't know anything about this guy, but what a scumbag!
Yeah, I didn't even know he'd say this, but if I heard J.D. Hall is going to be on Tucker Carlson, I'd be like, okay, it's going to be some evil, sick stuff because that's how he is. But yep, I would not have even known that he was going to say this.
Some will win, some will lose.
Some will win, some will lose. Some of them will blame the Jews.
Nice. Mike Rochwinger. Mike Winger criticized this episode, so therefore I love Tucker Carlson. Nice. The Jews, that is all. Nice, thank you. I hope Orthobros doesn't include Copts. Nice Coptic cross behind you, AP. Thank you. It never includes Copts. Copts are big.
Nope. The cops were smart enough to break away. No.
That would include breaking away from your side. But yeah.
Oh, really? They broke away from the Protestants, AP? So the Protestants were there all along. Okay, good to know.
I mean, now, of course.
So the Protestants are the original true church, according to AP. Okay, no takebacks. All right. You heard it here, folks.
Was invented later based on what Catholics believed. So, yeah. AP and David Wood exposing it all, but not in the Zoot sense. This is true. Jimmy McConney. David Wood, is there a date for DebateCon 9 against Dyer?
I think it's towards the end of October.
TikTok, time to talk. Israel needs to genocide 2 to 3.5 million Christians like the Ottoman Empire, that then Tucker will praise them. It just sounds too messed up to just read this, but good point. Demonasov, where's Dracula when you need him? Indeed, you two always make me laugh.
A couple more Draculas, man.
Kit Kat #1 Woody. Hey. Oh yeah, she changed from AP's #1 fan to #1 Woody.
Oh yeah, me and my son Luke were thinking we should get like an 8 a.m. morning show and call it Morning Wood.
Dude, what's wrong with you? Anyway, Vlad the Impaler was secretly an Israeli Jew working for Netanyahu. Tucker's fans would, I know, they believe this. They would probably believe it.
And so when the Ottomans were in control of the Promised Land for 400 years, In the millet system, they didn't charge churches tax. Israel started just a few years ago. And,
Whoa.
Israel is not charging churches tax.
Israel's not taxing churches.
Dude, do we have a lie
Taxing
counter?
properties owned by churches that are, again, like coffee shops and so on. Again, but notice what he just said, right? He said for 4 centuries. So, I mean, I was actually giving him the benefit of the doubt, saying, oh, okay, maybe he's talking about the reforms in the 19th century, which abolished the jizya, and maybe didn't. But no, he's saying for four centuries.
Do we have a lie counter here? Can I quickly set something up here? A lie counter.
AP, if you wanted to actually do something powerful, every time Tucker has one of these interviews, just make a lie counter and then just play every quick lie and then do a quick, like 1 or 2 sentence, quick explanation after each lie and say why it's a lie, and then do a lie counter, man.
Lie, 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 lie.
Lie, lie, lie.
Lie, lie, lie.
Lie, 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 lie. Lie, lie, lie.
Boom.
I just thought of something here. Lie counter is going to be here, and this is going to be over here. All right. Let's get it, bro. Let's get it, boy. Can I make this bigger? Not in the sense, but let's see. Okay. Let's start here from the beginning again. Here. Oops. Here's my lie counter. It says lie counter right here, as you can see. Lie counter. Okay. Let's start again from here.
Of hostility and in a lot of cases violence. And it's interesting how many Christians were expelled from their lands and their homes in 1948 with the foundation of the formation of the state of Israel.
Well, the church there is still having their property confiscated to this day for settlement. You know, with the Orthodox Church, Israel closed their bank or froze their bank account because they didn't pay their tax. It was a tax that they just suddenly threw on them. All this time, they've not had to pay that tax. Israel throws it on them. They couldn't afford it because it was years' worth, and they confiscated their bank account and threatened to take their property. The Ottomans didn't charge churches tax. And so when the Ottomans were in control of the Promised Land for 400 years, in the millet system, they didn't charge churches tax. Israel started just a few years.
But he already said this one, right? Okay.
Yeah, don't be double counting the same lie.
And, so that Christians have
Oh, he said Israel made new church taxes. That's also a lie. Okay.
pressure applied to them. I mean, native believers, the ones whose churches have been there longer than Israel has been a state, they're the ones that are facing the pressure that it's very hard to get Christians in America to care about at all.
And their Muslim rulers didn't do that during the Ottoman period.
Okay, so the answer is no. The Muslim rulers didn't tax churches during the Ottoman period. They were very kind to Christians. As a matter of fact, they took care of our holy sites. They had rebuilt, Islamic authorities rebuilt the Church of the Sepulchre 3 different times.
Listen, man, forget about the lie counter for now. I counted 12 lies in like 2 minutes. Let's go back here for a second. What an absolute freaking imbecile, man.
And, so that Christians have pressure applied to them. I mean, native
Not in the Zoot sense.
believers, the ones whose churches have been there longer than Israel has been a state, they're the ones that are
really need to point that out.
facing the pressure that it's very hard to get Christians in America to care about at all.
And their Muslim rulers didn't do that during the Ottoman period.
Okay, so the answer is no. The Muslim rulers didn't tax churches during the Ottoman period.
So that's a lie.
They were very kind to Christians.
Anybody who pretends to be a Christian or pretends to speak for Christians, in the defense of Christians and all that, and then who says the Muslims were very kind to Christians, I just don't know what to call somebody like that. It's a liar, a complete liar. And I do not. Does this guy have a history with trying to protect or trying to speak well of Muslims in the past? Is this why he was trying to call people fake ex-Muslims or something like that? What is with this guy? What is even the point here? What is the point of running to the defense of of Muslims so much so that you are happy to lie for the Muslims, lie on their behalf? This is so ridiculous, man. No single historian would argue that there is any truth to any of this, unless the historian has suffered from severe brain damage. The Muslims weren't kind to the Christians. We know this. We have gone through it a million times. Do we have to explain it? Islam started with the promise to subjugate and to convert and to tax the Christians, to make them pay the jizya or die or become slaves. Do we have to go through the Pact of Omar again? Should we go through the Pact of Omar again? Which was in one way or another. No, I'm thinking of the song. Which was,
I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna get you. Oh yeah. Hey, me and Luke want to make an entire like rock opera about the night of Al-Zut, but that would actually be a song that the Al-Zut could be singing like before, like when they come up with the plan.
Here's a good Wikipedia summary of it, just to find something simple. Maybe we should make a nice looking summary of the entire document. There are several versions of the pact that differ both in their language and stipulations. The pact, in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. This is a document to the servant of Allah, Umar, the leader of the faithful from the Christians of such and such city. When you Muslims came to us, you requested safety for ourselves, children, property, and father. You made conditions on ourselves that, of course, it's not really written by Christians. We will neither erect in our areas a monastery, church, or a sanctuary for a monk, nor restore any place of worship that needs restoration, nor use any of them for the purpose of enmity against Muslims. We will not prevent any Muslim from resting in our churches, whether they come by day or night. We will open the doors of our houses of worship for the wayfarer and passerby. Those Muslims who come as guests will enjoy boarding and food for 3 days. We will not allow a spy against Muslims into our churches and homes. We will not teach our children the Quran, publicize practices of shirk, polytheism, invite anyone to shirk, or prevent any of our fellows from embracing Islam if they choose to do so. We will respect Muslims and move from the places in which we sit if they choose to sit in them. We will not imitate their clothing, caps, turbans, sandals, hairstyles, speech, nicknames, and title names, or ride on saddles. Christians weren't allowed to ride on saddles. Or hang swords on the shoulders, collect weapons of any kind, or carry these weapons. We will not encrypt our stamps in Arabic or sell liquor. We will have the front of our hair cut, wear our customary clothes wherever we are, which means, oh gosh, there should be some. Let me go into more details of this. We can do that in a little bit. Wear belts around our waist. Refrain from erecting crosses on the outside of our churches or demonstrating them and our books in public in Muslim fairways and markets. We will not sound the bells in our churches except discreetly or raise our voices while reciting our holy books inside our churches in the presence of Muslims. So they cannot read their holy scriptures or engage in public processions or anything like that outside. And even when they are inside their churches, they have to do it quietly. Or light torches in funeral processions in the fairways of Muslims or in their markets. We will not bury our dead next to Muslim dead, or by servants who were captured by Muslims. We will be guides for Muslims and refrain from breaching their privacy in their homes. We will not beat any Muslim. These are conditions that we set against ourselves, and so on. It goes further into. We can go into the whole document in a little bit because it's just disgusting. The details are such as that Christians have to wear distinct clothing, have to wear huge crosses on their necks that burden them, to humiliate them as much as possible. If a Muslim is tired and wants to go into a Christian's house, the Christian has to open his doors for the Muslim so he can just barge in and take his food and whatever he wants. You may not establish churches, new churches. Any churches that are already established have to be lowered in height compared to mosques, and so on and so forth. And at the foundation of all of it, no bells, at the foundation of all of this, this is all under the condition that the Christians pay jizya money, protection money. If the Christians fail to pay protection money, jizya money, they are fair game and may be hunted and killed or enslaved, which directly goes to Quran chapter 9, verse 30. And this is exactly, verse 29. This is exactly how the Christian emperors, the Christian caliphates, and others treated the Christian caliphate. Did I say Christian caliphates?
Yeah, that's what you said, man. Yeah, the true Turk coming out of you, man.
How many times did I make that mistake now during this live stream? I wonder now. This is exactly
all
how
you kept. That's the entire live stream. You're like, and the Christian caliphate, yes, this Ottoman Christian caliphate oppressing the poor Muslims.
This is how the Muslim caliphates and the Muslim empires and the Muslim sultanates treated Christians again and again and again throughout their history. They varied in their degrees of oppression. So did the Ottomans. They varied in their degrees of oppression from the Abbasids, for example, or the Umayyads. But they had other issues with them. They always had the same idea in mind. Christians are our lowly subjects and they will do whatever we say. Otherwise, we can kill them at will and enslave them and take their families captive. And the Ottomans implemented things like the devshirme system, just harvesting Christian children and turning them to Muslims and making them soldiers, and so on and so forth. This all directly goes back to Muhammad and to the Quran. The Quran says, fight against those who do not believe in Allah or in the last day, and who do not consider unlawful what Allah and His Messenger have made unlawful, and who do not adopt the religion of truth, that is Islam, from those who were given the scripture, that is Christians and Jews. Fight until they give the jizya willingly while they are humbled. This is how Muslims are to treat the Christians and the Jews, the people of the book. Take protection money from them. Fight them if they refuse to accept Islam, then humiliate them and take jizya, protection money from them, to humiliate them even further. The alternative is that the Christians and Jews may die or be enslaved. But yeah, they were very, very kind, man. They were so kind. They were so kind.
As a matter of fact,
The good old
they
days,
took
man.
care of our holy sites. They had rebuilt, Islamic authorities rebuilt the Church of the Sepulchre.
You are a freaking historian and you call it sepulcher.
Sepulcher.
I'm sorry.
Sepulcher.
He's not. He's actually
Sepulcher.
he's actually not a historian. He apparently supposedly has a master's degree in some history field, which but he presumes to speak on matters of history in the Middle East, in the Holy Land, and then he actually refers to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre as the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. It's not just once.
3 different times over the centuries. They had a law protecting Christian pilgrims on their journey. Like nobody messed with the
The
pilgrims.
Ottoman Turks, the Muslim rulers of the Holy Land, rebuilt the Church of the Holy Sepulchre 3 times.
3 times. Yeah. Either completely rebuilt it or a major renovation. One time it caught on fire and they redid the roof. But if you've seen the church,
This is so ridiculous. I was waiting for him to say sepulcher again. He actually does definitely call it sepulcher, which is it's sepulcher. It's very, very simple. However, he just made multiple claims, including that Muslims themselves rebuilt the Church of the Holy Sepulchre 3 times. That never happened. It never. How can you refute something that just never happened, right? It never happened. Let's listen to it again.
longer than Israel has been a state, they're the ones that are facing the pressure that it's very hard to get Christians in America to care about at all.
And their Muslim rulers didn't do that during the Ottoman period.
Okay, so the answer is no. The Muslim rulers didn't tax churches during the Ottoman period. They were very kind to Christians. As a matter of fact, they took care of our holy sites. They had rebuilt, Islamic authorities rebuilt the Church of the Sepulchre 3 different times.
I'm really curious. Can this guy or anybody else who agrees with him or defends him give me the evidence and tell me those 3 times at which the Muslim rulers rebuilt, so kind of them, rebuild the Church of the Holy Sepulchre?
Well, I was also thinking, like even like right before that, he was saying about the tax thing, and he said, and these are the things that it's hard to get Christians in the West to care about. Yeah, if you're if your church owns a coffee shop and they say, okay, you're not used, that's not for worship, so we're going to tax your coffee shop. Yeah, I'm not going to care a whole lot about that. I'm just not.
Hey, this is funny. I asked Google, did Muslims rebuild the Church of the Holy Sepulchre 3 times? Google AI says, no, that claim is historically inaccurate. Muslim rulers did not rebuild the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The demolition and destruction of the church in 1009 were ordered by the Fatimid Caliph.
Did you say 1 and 1009?
I misspoke.
Okay, I'll let you slide because you're foreign.
This is a very, very interesting incident. I tweeted about this earlier, actually. I tweeted about this a long time ago. I made a long. Oh yeah, that would be nice. Let me see where I wrote about that before.
Oh,
I
you
wrote
should
about it ages
just check
ago.
out Ash's tweet as well. I shared it in the private chat.
Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Let's see. Where did I post about this? From me. Sepulchre. Sepulchre. The sepulchre. Sepulchre.
It's sepulture, man. Sepulchre.
Oh yeah, I wrote about this before. This was on April 2025.
I made an entire video about that standing outside.
You did?
What?
You did? So I wrote the following. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre is one of the holiest Christian sites, but in 1009, under the Islamic Caliph al-Hakim, it was completely destroyed and desecrated, along with hundreds of other churches. Synagogues were also destroyed. Christians and Jews were forced to severely limit their religious practices and to wear identifying pieces of clothing. Jews were ordered to wear calf necklaces, while Christians had to wear large wooden crosses. Such measures were common from early Islamic history. Christian texts, including Bibles, service books, and manuscripts were destroyed. Jewish texts were burned and destroyed as well. The Christians were eventually allowed to rebuild the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, although it is less grand than it was before. The empire lessened the destruction of churches out of fear of retaliations against Muslims and churches in lands taken by Christians. These repeated desecrations, destructions, and oppressions, along with the aggressive Islamic conquest, are what led to the Crusades. I thought I wrote in more detail about this. I apologize. So what happened is that the Caliph of the Fatimids was in charge, and he started implementing brutal measures against the Jews and the Christians, primarily the Christians, which included the destruction of all the churches, primarily also the destruction of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. To my, if my memory serves me right, the Byzantine Empire was the first that complained about it. So the Eastern Roman Empire, or just the Roman Empire, was the first that complained about it and directly appealed to the Western Christians once again to interfere and to unite and do something about it. The French, along with other Western Christians, started pressuring the Muslim Fatimids to immediately make up for this offense or to face the brutal consequences. After a little bit of back and forth, the Muslim rulers in charge said, okay, calm down, man, calm down. Okay, we'll allow you to rebuild the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, whatever you want. So, with Byzantine, Eastern Roman efforts and funding, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre was rebuilt, although not as it was in its previous glory, but it was rebuilt. According to this guy, apparently that was the Muslim authorities rebuilding the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. It wasn't the Muslim authorities. It was Christians themselves rebuilding it, and the Muslims just being allowed to do it under pressure.
And yeah, and that was, as you pointed out, that's kind of like a deal. Okay, you've got Muslims in your territories and we've got Christians over here. So how about we let you guys rebuild this stuff that Muslims destroyed, and then you don't interfere with the Muslims in your area much.
Yeah. The Christian idea was basically, hey, if you're going to treat our Christian holy sites and our Christians this way, how about we turn this around and do the same thing to your Muslims in the lands we encounter? And the Muslims were like, oh, okay, we're stopping now. We stop. Come rebuild your church, whatever you want. At what other point did Muslims, at what point ever did Muslims rebuild the Church of the Holy Sepulchre? It never happened. The Ottoman Empire promised guardianship over the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which was purely a political move in order to have power over the Orthodox Church. That was not an act of benevolence. It was an act of control, of authority over Christians. The funny thing about it to me is that they still have some of that control and that ownership until this day, which just strikes me as a very dumb move by the Orthodox Patriarchate over there. But just ignore that I said that.
Over the centuries, they had a law protecting Christian pilgrims on their journey. Like nobody messed with the
The
pilgrims.
Ottoman Turks, the Muslim rulers of the Holy Land, rebuilt the Church of the Holy Sepulchre 3 times.
And this is where it gets even wilder. At first, he says the Muslim rulers. Then Tucker asks if the Ottoman Turks rebuilt the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And J.D. Holland says yes. The Ottomans. And I would try to find these 3 instances from all of the Muslim history and rule over Jerusalem. But he restricts it to only the Ottomans and says, yeah, they rebuilt it 3. When the hell did this happen?
To be fair, maybe they're both thinking of the Ottoman, after whom the Ottoman Empire were named, and maybe the Ottoman were brought in as to do the construction because of their excessive strength and stuff like this, because they're part otter.
That makes sense. That is a good theory, I have to say, as an otter person myself.
Have you ever seen an otter, man? They are shredded, dude.
I know, man.
Terrifying.
So people generally don't know about this, but so the Ottomans are actually were actually known as Ottomans, but what they really were was they were otter men. This is why the Europeans were so terrified of them, because they were half otter, half men. And because of their strange appearance as half otter, half man, they would really scare the Europeans. And through this, through the scare that they would induce, they would conquer. They would go into the water and then emerge from the water as half otter, half human-looking beings, and would fight and conquer European Christian nations. Later on, it is said that the otter men disappeared because now you don't have half otter, half men people walking around. However, what actually happened is that they kind of went into hiding. And in every person of Turkish origin, you will still find otter and human ancestry. I can say this as a person of Turkish origin myself. Nobody really. Most people don't know this, but this is true.
People don't even know their history, man.
Yeah, most people don't know this, but this is history. So, just so you know.
3 times, yeah. Either completely rebuilt it or a major renovation. One time it caught on fire and they redid the roof. But if you've seen the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, you can imagine.
He said sepulchre again.
He also said roof.
Ruff, 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 ruff. Hey, I thought I was the only person able to do that. But since we explained the Ottoman, here's a picture of one of the Ottoman that was caught once.
You see what I'm saying? Would you like to be... Everyone, now be serious, guys. Would you want to face one of these guys in battle?
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't either. Terrifying. But I'm just saying, imagine if you had these guys around after they've kind of been tamed. You've tamed the Ottoman, and you want to use these guys for manual labor. I bet they'd be pretty awesome at it.
That is true. That is indeed most true. There's also another picture here of a more tame one that I was captured on camera. Here. This is a more civilized Ottoman.
The diet of ottermen consists of fish, crayfish, and crabs. So as long as you give them a steady supply of fish, crayfish, and crabs, then they'll be your soldiers, they'll be your manual laborers, they'll do anything.
Indeed. That's true.
Hey, look, it says AP. There's a Tanya's clearly Italian. So she said, "Epia, ancestors, Epia."
And what it took to redo that.
No, it's an enormous.
redo that
It's
row.
enormous and decaying.
Hey,
I will sadly. It's amazing.
Hey, you know what's funny? So when I was in graduate school, when you're first in graduate school, you have to be like the assistant of a professor, and so they'll have you like they can basically assign you to like teach classes for them or anything else. And but anyway, one thing they would do is have you like carefully proofread their papers or book manuscripts and things like that. Anyway, I had a professor who was Italian, but he actually super nice guy, but he wrote with an Italian accent. Then I had to like edit his stuff. He like, you think, how can you write with an Italian accent? But he would write, so the gist of this, but he would put like when the gist, he would put there as like, and I would have to edit that out. Anyway, yeah, it's a funny story.
That is funny. It's the funniest thing I've heard in my life. Skanderbeg was a Janissary who kicked Ottoman butt. Oh, yeah. Someone in the chat just posted the Mosque de West. The Mosque the West. Please put that on a t-shirt. The Mosque the West. Fox McCloud. The Janissaries became extremely powerful through their influence in trade, finance, and government. The Ottomans abolished them in 1826 after they resisted reforms and grew too powerful. That is true. It's because they were threatening the sultans themselves. As barbaric and horrifying as the Janissaries were, no one can deny they had to drip. Man, their uniforms were cool. So I heard. Bearded Mutt says, far left went from demanding Tucker head on a silver platter to applauding him and singing his praises. That's all I need to know, that not a single truthful word is coming out of his mouth. Yeah, I would say that it's not just them, though. It's much of the fake right as well. So,
I have to say, I just looked up the Janissaries, and those are some of the stupidest looking outfits I've ever seen in my entire life. And I would not want soldiers. Oh my goodness. It looks like a pride parade, man. I mean, you might like that, but as far as like an intimidating, I'll keep in mind these guys were ruthless, brutal fighters and stuff like that. I'm just pretty surprised by their outfits. You picked one of the you picked kind of one of the toughest pictures that I've seen. Some significantly lamer ones.
And they look like clowns in a way, but still, they were very tough. They were tough clowns. It's like those scary clowns, you know, when people do this whole clown horror thing. It's kind of like that. Anyway.
Please.
Well, a lot of those sites have started to decay since 1948.
That one definitely.
Wait, what's decaying?
The Church of the Holy Sepulchre, he says, has started decaying since 1948. Dude.
We couldn't even get into most of it because of renovations when we were there.
Precisely. And I went back a year later and it was still being renovated in many places. What weird. In the world does the decaying of the building have to do with Israel? Israel made the building decay. Israel puts evil Jew poison and air on the church to make it decay. And then the church even starts endless reconstruction and renovation projects, but the Jews are manipulating the renovation. What kind of stupidity is this, man? This is what's called low IQ anti-Semitism.
This is what it seems like, as far as I can tell. The place is such a huge tourist attraction. I mean, when I went there the first time, they actually had to like shove people in the doors. There was a guy like shoving people in the door to like cram more because people can't even get in because it's too jam-packed. There's a guy like pushing people in like sardines and stuff. And so it's kind of hard to do renovations normally because it's you got to shut down one of the most popular tourist sites in the world and pilgrimage sites in the world. And so it was during COVID where that's when they're like, oh, okay, it's COVID now. Now we don't have a ton of people, so now's a good time to do big renovations. I have zero clue this has to do. If you want to say Jews are oppressing Christians somehow, okay, make that I don't see it at all.
Well, the Israel applies special Jew cream to the building of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, by which it decays faster.
Yep, it's decaying.
It's Jew goo decay serum. Yeah, that's what it is.
Completely rebuilt it, or a major renovation. One time it caught on fire and they redid the roof. But if you've seen the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, you can imagine what it took to redo that.
No, it's an enormous.
That
it's
roof.
enormous and decaying. Sadly, it's an amazing place.
Well, a lot of those sites have started.
Is it really that special as a building? It's very historical and it's big, but I've seen more remarkable churches.
Quit dissing the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, man.
Dude, I'm not dissing it. To my understanding,
it's such a weak church. Why would anyone want to go there? Come on, dude.
To my understanding, it's like most of what is so important about it is the history of it. But I've seen more remarkable churches. I mean, the roof is kind of remarkable. The roof is remarkable. That's true.
It's rough.
To decay since 1948.
That one definitely is decaying, and just physically, the physical building, the plant, is kind of falling apart.
Some of the opposition to the Zionist project in Great Britain in the 1940s was on account of the Muslim authorities having taken such good care of our Christian sites that it was a bit of a gamble to let Jewish authorities do that.
We don't want the Jews taking over because Muslims are so great towards Christians.
You know, I've heard people say if it wasn't for Israel, we wouldn't be able to go visit our holy sites. There wouldn't even be holy sites anymore. And it's like, who do you think has been taking care of them this whole time? It's been the Islamic authorities who've had, control in that region.
So this is the only thing where he's not just outright lying and saying something ridiculously retarded. However, here is the issue. The Muslims weren't just, the Muslim rulers weren't just guys who were like, yeah, this is our place now and we will do whatever we want. They had to appease their own populations. They had to appease the powers that would threaten them. We have many communications, and at this point, I normally when I talk about history stuff, I would like to pull up some sources and appeal to a few people here and there. But considering that Mr. Amateur Historian here speaks of the Holy Sepulchre, I can just say whatever I want now, and you should all believe me. There were many communications between the Christian West and the Muslim powers, including the Ottoman Empire, to make them take care of the Muslims in order to for mutual guarantees, which the Ottoman Muslims did abide by, and they did put quite some effort into trying to keep their distant minority populations under control. I have this, I forgot what it's called, but I think it's called The History of the Arabs under the Ottoman something. History of Arabs, it's somewhere here. The Arab lands under Ottoman rule. I think that's it. I'm not entirely sure, honestly. I haven't looked at that in a long time. But they weren't even good to the Muslim Arabs under their own rule, the Ottoman Empire, let alone to the Christians under their rule. But they had one thing in mind, which is as long as these guys pay their jizya money, we should allow them to peacefully live here unless they offend us or do anything that goes strictly against Islam. Because these guys are in distant lands and we don't want rebellions. And we don't want Western powers to take advantage of the situation and foster rebellions in the land. That's basically what it is. Now you have Israel, with which you have friendly relations, instead of having an empire with which you have hostile relations, but mutual guarantees. But apparently that's worse.
That because of the Islamic view of Jesus, they've actually been quite kind to the holy sites in the region.
What is the Islamic view of Jesus?
Well, I don't want to say that Muslims have a high view of Jesus. The reason is because Jesus is not fictional. Jesus is real.
You see, he said Jesus
He
is
just said
real.
Jesus Israel.
He said Jesus is real.
He said Jesus Israel.
He's controlled by the Jews.
Jesus of Nazareth is a real biological person. To this day, he still exists. He's in heaven. He's not here. I would say that Muslims have a false view of Jesus. It's not the real view of Jesus, but they're actually quite fond of him. And so they believe
Yes,
that
they love
Jesus
Jesus
was
more than
sent
we
by-
do. Just ask them.
Muslims love Jesus. Oh, they even say they love Jesus.
God, that he was of God, that he said true things, that he performed real miracles, and that he's actually coming again. That doesn't make them Christians. It doesn't mean that
Muslims believe Jesus is coming again.
they do.
Come on,
You know
Tucker.
what's
You don't know
funny?
this at this point. You don't know this
Tucker
at this
heard
point,
this
Tucker.
before. I know for a fact that Tucker heard this before. Dude, I'm very sure that somebody else said this to him and he asked that very same question on a different episode.
What?
Now he's
Tell us
asking it
more
again.
about how
Wait,
great Islam
what?
is.
Wait, Muslims believe Jesus is coming back?
What?
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 I am shocked to hear this.
What? This isn't what I was told at Fox.
As a prophet, not as the
Right.
Messiah, but they believe in his return.
As the final prophet.
So there's been an effort to
Did you see how nice he was how he wasn't walking this line and was being very nice about what Muslims believe about Jesus? David, what do Muslims believe about Jesus? Do Muslims love Jesus, David? David, do
No,
Muslims believe in Jesus and love him so much? Do they love him even more than Christians love him?
no, they love some made up figure that Muhammad, he took some things and basically turned him into a Muslim who accomplished nothing but prophesied that Muhammad was coming. And he's gonna come back and slaughter all the Jews and Christians who refuse to convert to Islam. He's gonna break all the crosses.
Here's the context of how Jesus returns in Islam. Allah's messenger said, "The hour will not be established until the Son of Mary descends among you as a just ruler. He will break the cross." Oh, wait a minute. He didn't tell me that. That sounds kind of weird. Kill the pigs and abolish the jizya tax, which means there will no longer be any need for the jizya tax, because now it's time to bring justice to the table and to tell the Christians you either convert to Islam or you die.
We need Muslims to start arguing. And this wouldn't be one of their classic Dawah arguments, but given how rapidly Dawah is, I don't want to call it evolving, but basically now anyone who can get a following on TikTok can be the new representative of Islam. And they keep just coming up with like crazy arguments that that don't work really in an Islamic context. Calling Jesus the way, the truth, and the life, and the truth as one of Allah's 99 names and things like that. Anyway, recently, Central Dawah was calling Jesus the first and the last, and those are two of Allah's 99 names and so on. So anyway, but what we really need for TikTok Dawah is Muslims to argue, see, we love Jesus too, and here's the proof. Jesus is the real final prophet in Islam. Start arguing that, Muslims. You love Jesus because he's the final prophet. How is he the final prophet? Well, Surah 9 of the Quran is what calls for the jizya. That was the last major chapter of the Quran that was revealed to Muhammad, and it imposes the jizya. So that is the last revelation there about this issue. There's nothing that comes after that abrogates it, and yet Jesus is going to come, and then he's going to abolish the jizya, which is again imposed in Surah 9 of the Quran. So Jesus is going to abrogate Quran verses, which would make him, not Muhammad, the final prophet. That's what you should be arguing, Muslims. Now do it.
As the
Do it.
final prophet.
Do it.
Dude, what are we even talking about here? What are we even talking about here? Does this place look familiar to people? This is the Hagia Sophia. Holy wisdom.
Yeah, see, they're really taking care of our holy sites, man.
The church or the cathedral of holy wisdom. This is the Orthodox main cathedral of the bishop in Constantinople. One of the greatest churches ever. What happened to this place?
No, they're taking care of it for us.
What happened to this place? Everybody, wait a minute. Why are there Arabic texts on here? Why does this one say Allah? Why does this one say Muhammad? Why does this one say Ali? Why does this one over here say Umar? Why does this one over here say Uthman? Why does this one over here say Abu Bakr? Who are these people? Who is Allah? Who the heck 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 is Allah? Yeah. Who the heck is Allah? And who is Muhammad? What are they doing in a church? The biggest church of all. So this is the Hagia Sophia. This was one of the greatest churches of Christians. It was the center of Eastern Christianity before the Ottoman Empire came along in 1453 and took Constantinople, conquered the place. And what did they do to this beautiful, wonderful church? They turned it into a mosque. They turned it into a mosque. And today they still pride themselves to this day that they conquered this place and turned it into a mosque. They just love that. But hey, these guys were nothing but kind. They were nothing but nice. They took great care of the holy sites of Christians. They just loved Christians. They were so kind to Christians. Look, they're taking care of it by turning it into a mosque. You see?
So nice.
Gosh. What kind of dummy falls for this nonsense propaganda?
Dumb one.
To propagandize American Christians on this question.
The irony.
Mm-hmm.
The freaking irony.
Yeah, we can't let them propagandize American Christians. We need to give them the truth.
The haq and the
They
hikmah.
need the haq and the hikmah.
Don't worry, guys. One day I will take back the Hagia Sophia. I will take back Constantinople. It's still on the plans.
And in churches as well?
Yeah, I don't know how official it is, but it's when you.
Hey, why are all the icons covered up, David? You see? Muslims are just like Protestants. Protestants are just like Muslims. They
covered up the icons to protect them from erosion. They're taking care of them. Ask J.D. Hall and Tucker Carlson.
When you listen to Christians talk about Islam, they'll say things like, well, we've got to maintain good relationships with Israel because Islam and Christianity are natural enemies. Well,
and yes, they are.
Well, I'm not saying that we're not. I'm not saying that Islam and Christianity have ever had any kind of partnership, but honestly, it's Rabbinic Judaism and Christianity that historically has been at odds.
Okay. And how in the world does that contradict the idea that Islam and Christianity are natural enemies?
The idea that Christians and Jews have gotten along this whole time, and that
they haven't. I have never heard anybody.
Who said that? Name one person who has ever said that in the entire history of humanity.
I have never.
This idea that no one has ever had, I'm going to refute it.
On the contrary, I've heard from so many people who are pro-Israel and pro-friendship with Jews that things were very sour and very bad in the past, and that we are now at a better place in relationships. I've never heard anybody suggest, "Oh, we have always been perfectly friendly with Jews." What the hell, man?
We have to band together to protect ourselves against the Muslims. It's a very recent notion. This wasn't
Oh, really? I had no idea.
something that was ever posited like before the 20th century. That part is brand new. And it comes from,
We know this because Christians themselves famously say that. Christian organizations of cooperation with Jews famously say that. The Catholic Church famously says that.
the Jewish talking points that you see on the television and the news constantly.
So it's a political construct that's been accepted as a theological.
Hey, David, did you know that historically we actually had problems with Muslims?
I mean, I understand certain people have been propagandized to believe such things, but
Why
there's just
is
no
Israel
evidence.
doing this? Why is Israel doing all of this? I can't
No,
believe what Israel is doing.
because there's a bunch of Jews there.
reality by
I-
American Christians.
I would say that's the case. There's so much crossover between what is political and what is theological when it comes to Israel that sometimes it's really hard to determine what is theological propaganda and what is political propaganda. Because when it's being
Dude, you know what the funniest thing is? Earlier he mentioned how the Christian pilgrims were protected by Muslims. Now, to be fair, he later on started to refer to only the Ottomans, although the Ottomans themselves did not protect Christian pilgrims. Christian pilgrims always had to protect themselves. They had to hire people who accompany them in order to become pilgrims. But the funniest thing about all of this is he starts his premise with the Muslims were very kind to the Christians. The Muslims would allow the Christian pilgrims to travel and all that. What was the number one issue that was mentioned when as motivation to start the Crusades?
Muslims were attacking Christian pilgrims.
Yeah. Dude, oh my gosh.
You see how the Jews spread that lie and started the Crusades? Christian pilgrims were just having a blast visiting all their sites, and Muslims were protecting them the entire time. And then some Jews started spreading rumors. Did you know that Christians aren't even safe taking the pilgrimage to these holy sites? And then all the dumb Christians in Europe are like, what? Let's go fight these Muslims. And the Jews said, you see, look what we've caused. You see.
You know what's funny? I was in 7th grade in Germany in school when I was reading historic documents in our history book, in which Christians sent letters to Rome and to the West, in which they desperately complain that they are being taunted, hunted down, harassed, robbed by Muslims on their way to Jerusalem and on their way back from Jerusalem, crying for help, begging Rome for help to do something about this, to protect the pilgrims from the Muslims who harass them all the time and kill them and rob them and so on. I read this when I was in 7th grade, man. That's when I was first exposed to it, and I didn't care much about it.
Yeah, in your face, Christians, dumb Christians.
I was in school. I learned this in 7th grade. This guy sits here, pretends to be a historian, and actually wants to argue that the Muslims were very nice to Christians, including totally defending Christian pilgrims. What the hell, man? Gosh.
done to us, the people doing it, for them, it's all political propaganda. They're not trying to change our religion when they tell us this stuff as Christians. They just want us to have a different political perspective. They have to come at it from the angle of theology.
Yes.
Right. And so that's the sad thing about dispensationalism is it at the heart of it, there are people who really believe this.
For sure.
Darby believed it. I think Schofield believed it. Christians today, they believe it. They're very committed to it, but it's being promoted and propagated by people who don't believe it at all.
And who don't care one way or the other.
No, but they find it very helpful.
I swear that these guys are more obsessed with Israel and Jews than any Jew I've met.
For their purposes.
So one of those interested parties is the actual government of Israel.
Yep.
What is the government of Israel doing to convince American Christians that supporting the secular state of Israel is their religious duty? Like, what does that propaganda campaign look like?
So I believe it's $729 million is what the Knesset set aside to fund the project through the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs. $729 million through their public diplomacy unit.
By the way, for those who don't know, this is the author of the Schofield Bible. This is the Schofield that he was just talking about. He went to prison at some point and then had to break out of prison to save his brother and all that. It was quite an endeavor. And in the middle of that, he also wrote this thing called the Schofield Bible, in which he invented this idea that we have to support Israel. He's to blame for Christian Zionism and everything. The more you know.
Is what they call it. 729 million. That was budgeted for the year 2026. They have a part of that, $729 million.
Hey, Tucker's like, well, that's peanuts compared to what Qatar's kicking out. they gave me more than that.
For public diplomacy called Project 545, which is a $145 million budget set aside to affect or manipulate AI and search engine results primarily for Americans. Just to give you an idea of how much that is, at the height of the Soviet Union, their budget was $3.5 million for what they called their active measures. Active measures was Soviet propaganda, $3.5 million. But that had to cover essentially.
Anyway, I don't care about any of this anymore.
Now, if you're someone like Putin, now, you start a war. Let's say you invade a place like Ukraine. What happens if you invade a place like Ukraine? Well, then all of a sudden, you're attacking Ukrainian Orthodox Christians, right? And then that's going to cause some division, right? And then you're going to have other Orthodox Christian groups having a problem with the Russian Orthodox, because the Russians demand that the churches bend the knee to Moscow. You have to bend the knee to Moscow. And the Russian soldiers are basically, if they take over an area and you are Ukrainian Orthodox, you have to bend the knee, or they're coming after you too. So what Putin would need propaganda-wise is a group of people online led by someone who's Russian Orthodox. Let's call him Jay. It needs someone like Jay Dyarovsky, Comrade Jayevich Svidrigailov Dyarovsky, leading a group of people online to try to put together a united Orthodox front against Protestants and Catholics, to sow division and to weaken Western Christianity, to pave the way for future expansions by Russia, and to get people to ignore the division with Russian Orthodox attacking Ukrainian Orthodox churches and so on, to divert attention from that. Also, all of the Protestant churches being destroyed. This is actually interesting. Most of the churches destroyed by the Russian military are Baptist churches, even though Baptists make up like 1% of the population. How could you distract from that sort of thing? Well, you need some sort of online group distracting everyone. Let's call them the Orthobros. But guess what? You have all sorts of Orthobros from all sorts of Eastern Orthodox backgrounds. What you need is a puppet master, a Russian Orthodox puppet master, to make all these guys into useful idiots to actually be the online force for Vladimir Putin. How much does it cost? I don't know. But I hope he got it for a bargain.
Nice. Hey, did you hear the news about what the Democrats are doing in America, in New York? Suddenly, New York. What they're doing in New York? Have you heard about that? Have you heard the news about it all? Their candidates are just very, very wonderful. One
Is that Hassan Piker dude?
No, not him.
That is Hassan Piker.
One of the candidates is right here. NY13 nominee Daraliza Avila Chevalier is a founder of CUAD. The organization's stated goal is the following. We are Westerners fighting for the total eradication of Western civilization. We stand in full solidarity with every movement for liberation in the global South. Our intifada is an internationalist one. We are fighting for nothing less than the liberation of all people. We reject every genocidal, eugenicist regime that seeks to undermine the personhood of the colonized. As the fascism ingrained in the American consciousness becomes even more explicit and irrefutable, we seek community and instruction from militants in the global South, from the global South who have been on the front lines in the fight against tyranny and domination which undergird the imperialist world order. She also, I don't know if it was her. I think she posted something that goes, oh yeah, here. I forgot to get napkins, so I just wiped my hand on the American flag behind me. These are the people that are being pushed as representatives in the Democratic Party for political rule, political office in the United States of America, in New York. Very, very nice, man. Very, very nice. Very, very beautiful.
Gonna get more of that, man.
Gotta get more.
What could possibly go wrong?
Nothing. What could possibly? Why would anything go wrong at all? Why would you even make such a suggestion? Anyway, let me read a few super chats. Israel is the puppet of the one true church. You see. Choo says, see you soon in Denver, Gifters. God bless. What's in Denver?
Oh, that's probably referring to EPS, man.
Oh, what is that again?
It's the conference, the annual conference.
When is that again?
That's November, man.
Oh, that's a long time.
That's 1,000 years away.
By soon, you mean 1,000 years away. See you soon in 1,000 years. Real Black Milky says, my name is Emmanuel. I'm an Assyrian born in Iran. We left because my daycare principal advised my mom to change my Christian name. I was already bullied. Grapes to Jannah. Turkey might finish below Qatar in the World Cup. That would be fantastic.
That'd be funny.
Eric Barlow, tomorrow actually is a very important. Tomorrow, the United States of America plays against Turkey. And that's going to be exciting. They converted the largest church.
I'll tell you what, if the US makes it to the final game, I'll watch it.
Okay.
There's some final game, right? Between like number 1 and number 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. MT says the point. He was down on his luck and needed a buck. Indeed. TSTO says Temu Army Hammer looking as con artist JD Hall. Who's Army Hammer? I have no idea who Army Hammer.
He's an actor. I remember he was into like some sick, weird torture stuff or something.
Wait, that's that guy?
He was an actor in something.
Wait a minute.
Oh, the
Isn't
Man
this-
from Uncle. He's in the Man from Uncle. Oh, he's in the Lone Ranger. That was a huge flop.
This is the guy who was in Citizen Vigilante. Did you hear about the movie Citizen Vigilante?
No, because I'm not a dork. What? What's so funny?
It just came out, and people have been talking about it. And I actually got it and watched it because there was a lot of talk about it. Because it is a movie made by one very controversial German director by the name of Uwe Boll. And the movie, it's about an American guy who goes to Europe to bring vigilante justice to criminals in the streets. And he primarily deals with stuff like migrants who harass or rape or rob people, and he actually goes out and kills them. That's the movie. it's a very messed up movie. I watched the whole thing. I must say, it is a low budget movie, but that guy is actually in the lead role. He's the guy who is doing the justice. It's a low budget movie.
That's a new thing. Because I was looking, I remembered he was accused of some super creepy stuff. But yeah, it's like cannibalism stuff.
No, that just came out, and that just came out.
Is that an indie movie? Because I can't imagine anyone wanting to pay him to be in their movies after he's been repeatedly accused of cannibalism.
I don't know about the cannibalism.
2 months later, Hammer's ex-girlfriend, Francina Angela, also known as Effie, came forward as the owner of the Instagram account and accused Hammer of raping her in 2017. 2 other women alleged abuse by Hammer. Courtney Vachukovich claimed he subjected her to emotional abuse, expressed a desire to cook and eat one of her ribs, and that she attended a hospitalization program for PTSD following their relationship. Paige Lorenz claimed Hammer branded her, purposefully left her covered in bruises, and talked about consuming her. Huh, that's weird. Everyone's accusing him of wanting to eat body parts or something. Hammer eventually admitted to consensual BDSM and emotional abuse, but denied claims of sexual abuse and cannibalism. That's good. He denied it.
Well, that was a weird thing to listen to. I was going to make a joke about cannibalism, but then it got really disturbing. So,
oh yeah, cannibalism's always funny.
A man's got to eat, man. Pack Mulehouse says, I'm a property tax appraiser for a county in Wyoming, and that is literally the way we tax religious property. If it's used for worship services or non-profit purposes, it's not taxed. If it's anything else, it is taxed. Yeah. That is how it should be done. Right?
That the Jews gave you this policy to make you not care as much that they're doing the same thing.
The Jews told you to enact this policy in Wyoming so that they can do the same thing in Jerusalem and nobody can question them. They also wanted you to comment this on this live stream to protect them, you see. Bullshock. There is a lot of unfortunate, sometimes depressing and raging truth you can stumble on if you follow the money in any country. True. Pack Mulehouse. Also, thank you, David Wood, for everything you're doing. Oh, and hi, AP. Hi. Catholic Spore says, I don't understand this obvious... Did you just say you're welcome?
They said thank you. That's polite. Didn't they say thank you?
Dude.
Someone said thank you. I said you're welcome. What?
This is...
Okay. All right, everyone. Just say thank you,
shocking,
and I will never say you're welcome for anything. Next time you say thank you, I'll say, shut up, screw you.
This is very shocking. This is the first time I've ever heard David say, you're welcome.
What else can I say but you're welcome?
I've never heard you say thank you or you're welcome to anybody.
I've said you're welcome multiple times, like when I defended the existence of Muhammad by pointing out all the stuff about him in the Hadith that no one would have ever made up. And I said, you're welcome to Muslims for defending the existence of their prophet.
It's very, very interesting. The Jews got to David. I don't understand the obvious propaganda for Islam. They're getting paid, or it is demons. Seriously, it's crazy. It is pretty crazy. Sivako, Tucker Carlson is so fake and cringe. He reminds me of Caesar Flickerman from the Hunger Game movies. I've never watched the Hunger Games movies, I must say.
Me neither, but I'm looking up, what is it? Caesar Flickman? Caesar Flickerman.
We Christians in America don't care enough about made-up persecution via tax and
It does kind of look like Tucker.
Christians being genocided. Yeah. The Crusades were also committed by Israeli Jews. Yeah, the Crusades were actually started by Israel. The Roman Catholic Church is being controlled by the Jews. Most of the Protestant denominations around there are also controlled by Jews. The Orthodox Church, to be frank, is also being controlled by Jews. The Crusades were controlled by the Jews.
Mm-hmm.
However, the Muslim conquest, the Muslims were also controlled by the Jews. The Ottoman Empire was controlled by the Jews. The Seljuks, everybody was controlled by the Jews. Everything is controlled by the Jews. It's quite easy. Jordan Doherty. You know what's the most messed up thing? Jews control Israel. I know, it's shocking. Jordan Doherty said, wasn't there a demon who did poetry? Was there? Nice. Getting zooted. I was born into the Orthodox Church in Israel. It is so corrupt, Islamophilic, and pathetic that even if what Tucker says is true, I don't care.
That's what AP says when he's not live. Well,
the funny thing is you're joking, but it is actually kind of similar to what I say when I'm not live. MT, life hack. If you go broke, go anti-Israel. True. I feel Carlson always has to fold his arms to keep his demon from escaping. Those Janissary uniforms, brave Sir Robin ran away. What is that?
That's from Monty Python, the Holy Grail. Brave Sir Robin ran away, bravely ran away. That's what's weird, right? Because they do seem like some stupid outfits, and yet they were pretty brutal soldiers. What?
It is from the Holy Grail.
Yeah, Sir Robin, man. Bravely bold Sir Robin rode forth from Camelot. He was not afraid to die. Oh, brave Sir Robin. He was not at all afraid to be killed in nasty ways. brave Sir Robin.
I must watch it again. Jonathan Jappis says, Israel didn't even have control of Jerusalem in 1948. This is true. Why did the Ottomans... That is very funny. That is true. Why did the Ottomans follow the seal of the prophets? And what were the cat humans doing? Were the cat-holics and prudels still in fighting? They were. So the Ottomans were following seals because they wanted to eat the seals, because they thought they could eat seals. Or some of them wanted to play with seals. The cat humans generally, they like hanging out with cat-holics, although they fight all the time. But one thing that the cat humans and the cat-holics can agree on is that the prudels kind of suck, but then the prudels and the cat humans also agree that the cat-holics suck. It's all very complicated. The animal kingdom. Songs of relief. Mr. Ottoman, would you help us rebuild our crumbling church? No, get out of here. Well, would you do it for a nice, tasty sea urchin? Gerald Zutit says, honestly, if people in America buy Tucker's BS about Islam being actually good after seeing Europe, at least don't blame the Jews for opening the gates. I wasn't going to say it. Tatsusama, thanks for being outspoken about Islam. We don't have free speech in Europe. Switzerland. I appreciate that. Thank you. And you need to get it back. Please make a short with Tucker saying this then. Can I just not read, or did you just... Please just make a short with Tucker saying this, then what Muslims truly think about Jesus and how their fake version returns to enforce Islam, aka pedophilia. Okay, now I get it. You wrote very poorly, it wasn't me. Graves to Jannah. Do you think they should have a Zoolympics? Pakistan can be in the inaugural host. Then Winglings can host the one after. Then the Woodies after that. Probably they should.
There should be a Olympics.
There should be. Hujintao. Guys, please show the viewers the Al-Kafi Hadith 27, Book 4, Chapter 111 Hadith about Abu Talib and Muhammad. Didn't you bring this up before?
I'm not sure because I don't use Al-Kafi much, but there's a few hadiths I use from Al-Kafi. Let me see.
Nobody cares about stupid Shia, man. Nobody cares what the Shia think. Sunnis are the real Muslims. Let's see. I got it. The birth of the Holy Prophet.
Oh, yeah, that one's classic. That's the miracle right there, man. You want a miracle in Islam? Here it is, man.
Muhammad ibn Yahya has narrated from Sa'ad bin Abdullah, from Ibrahim ibn Muhammad al-Thaqafi, from Ali ibn al-Mu'alla, from his brother Muhammad, from the Rusta ibn Abu Mansur, from Ali ibn Abu Hamza, from Abu Basir, from Abu Abdullah, who said, when the Holy Prophet was born, he remained for days without milk. Abu Talib himself breastfed him, and Allah sent milk through his nipples. He continued to be breasted by him for several days until Abu Talib found Halima al-Sa'diyah, so he gave him to her.
Mm-hmm.
So here you have a guy who can actually breastfeed Muhammad. This is beautiful, man.
And can you imagine this dude didn't even convert to Islam after this miracle?
It's beautiful. Sending on behalf of Don't Search, who hopes you'll release Prophet Tales Part 2. I wish I could do that. One day I will. You know what? I promise to you, one day, unless death comes between us, I will publish the Prophet Tales. I will publish more episodes of the Prophet Tales one day. Leo Wolf the Red. AP, your Varangian Guard is on standby for the liberation of Constantinople and the restoration of the Hagia Sophia. Make a Varangian Guard t-shirt. I would love to do that. I would love to do it. But the Norse are all gone. Can you or David Wood please make short videos debunking this?
I told you.
And better for the algorithm.
I literally told you yesterday, man, make a short video response to this because it's pretty big and you just won't do it.
Short videos are gay. How often do I need to tell you short videos are gay?
If you had kept up making short regular videos, you'd have well over 1 million.
Dude, what do you think I'm trying to set up here? That's literally what I'm working on right now. It's just
you haven't made one actual regular video in 7 years.
I literally published
7 years.
640 on Dana Lush's show yesterday claimed that. How do you actually say her name as an American? I mean, I know the correct way in German would be Lush, but how do you actually, as an English-speaking person, say her last name? Please tell me.
How would I know?
All right, fine. 640 on Dana Lush's show yesterday claimed that Tucker doesn't like nor care to understand biblical conversations. I mean, it's very obvious, to be honest. Dimonasov says, take a propaganda at these nuts. Indeed. Robert Adams, Yun Hankir, Captain James Riley. Yes. The easiest way to get a right-wing fascist elected is to elect enough Islamo-commies that the rest of us feel we have no choice. Maybe that's the plan. That's the plan. All right. Losh. Lash. Losh. Lash. Lash. Losh. Lash. Losh. Losh. Lash. Lash. Well, that's pretty gay because the actual way that it is spelled is a German name. And if we don't want to gayify things, because when you say German names in English, you kind of gayify it, and you don't want to gayify German names because German is a sacred language. German is a holy language, and it shouldn't be desecrated this way. If you see a German name and you want to give an English pronunciation to it, you are gayifying it, and you should not gayify the sacred German names, the holy names from German. It is Lösch, Lösch, Lösch. So say it the right German way. Learn to say it the German way. Don't say it the gay way. But thank you for your input, Sifa Fifa. I am speaking English, but that doesn't mean that we have to corrupt and gayify German words just because we speak English. We speak English out of necessity. Anything else, David? What?
What?
Anything else? I said anything else.
No, someone just said, someone earlier said, Jay Dyer looks like a fat Officer Dangle. I forgot I didn't realize how much he looked like Officer Dangle, man. Oh boy. Search for Officer Dangle and put it up on the screen, man. What are you laughing at? Did you look it up?
Yes. I literally thought this was a picture of Jake.
That's what I mean. It's like dead ringer, man. Oh, that's going to my next video.
I thought this was Jay Dyer.
That was thanks to Brother John 813 who said, "Oh, you mean Fat Officer Dangle? That looks exactly like Jay Dyer right there."
This is Jay. I thought this was Jay Dyer when I saw it.
Oh man. Oh boy.
What's wrong with you? All right. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. As always, have a fantastic day. Bye bye. Yeah. Are you going live tomorrow? You probably are going live tomorrow. All right. Thanks everybody for watching. And as always, have a fantastic day. And God bless you all. And God bless America. Yeah, I said, are you going live tomorrow?
Yeah, but you said bye, and then you were still live.
Yeah, but are you going live tomorrow?
Are we going live? Are you free?
I don't know, but we'll have to figure it out. I just want you to tell people while we're live if you're going to go live tomorrow or not.
Stay away from Islam.
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 Stay away from Islam. Stay away from Islam.
Stay away from Islam.
Stay away from Islam. Stay away from Islam. Stay away from Islam. Stay away from Islam.